Recounted True Tales. The disturbing true story of Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer. On December 18, 1948, Edmund Kemper entered the world in Burbank, California. His upbringing was far from serene. Clarnell Elizabeth Kemper, his mother, grappled with alcoholism and potentially had borderline personality disorder. The unpredictability of her actions prompted comments from Kemper's father, Edmund Emil Kemper II, a World War II veteran. Missions in wartime and the later atomic bomb testings were nothing compared to living with Clarnell. Around the age of 9, Kemper's father and mother would go their separate ways. Kemper's bond with his father was strong, and he struggled immensely when his parents split in 1957 and finalized their divorce in 1961. He was then sent to live with his mother, Clarnell, in Helena, Montana. Their relationship was deeply troubled. His mother, a neurotic and controlling alcoholic, frequently demeaned, humiliated, and mistreated him. Clarnell's fear that he might harm his sisters led her to confine him to a locked basement for sleeping. She consistently ridiculed his towering stature. He stood at 6 feet 4 inches by age 15 and disparaged him as a real weirdo, not knowing he overheard her during a phone call with Kemper's father. She also withheld affection, afraid it might influence his sexual orientation, and conveyed to Kemper that he'd never find love, comparing him to his father and berating him for reminding her of him. Kemper later described her as an unwell, furious woman, and there were suggestions that she might have had borderline personality disorder. From his hefty 13-pound, 5.09 newborn status to towering over peers, Edmund Kemper's life was marked by disturbing behavior. At a young age, he displayed troubling tendencies, including cruelty to animals. By age 10, he committed a gruesome act, burying a pet cat alive, then mutilating it by decapitation and mounting its head on a spike. His pleasure in deceit manifested as he successfully lied to his family about the incident. More disturbing episodes unfolded. At 13, Kemper killed another family cat out of jealousy toward his younger sister, keeping parts of the animal hidden until discovered by his mother. Kemper's dark fantasies and macabre imagination were evident as he engaged in unsettling rituals with his sister's dolls, often removing their heads and hands. I remember there was actually a sexual thrill. You hear that little pop and pull their heads off and hold them up by the hair, Kemper later said. Whipping their heads off, their bodies sitting there, that'd get me off. Once teased by his elder sister, Susan Huey Kemper, about not trying to kiss his teacher, he chillingly retorted, "If I kiss her, I'd have to kill her first." He confessed to sneaking out armed with his father's bayonet to watch his second-grade teacher through her windows. His childhood games were deeply unsettling. He'd play gas chamber and electric chair, requesting his sister to bind him as he simulated gas inhalation or electric shocks, convulsing as if undergoing execution. Additionally, he survived near-death encounters, a sibling's attempt to push him in front of a train, and another incident where he almost drowned after being pushed into a pool's deep end. When he was 14, Kemper fled home, hoping to reconnect with his father in Van Nuys, California. However, upon arrival, he discovered that his father had remarried and now had a stepson. After a brief stay, his father arranged for him to live with his paternal grandparents on a ranch near North Fork in the Sierra Nevada foothills on Road 224. Kemper detested life in North Fork, describing his grandfather as senile and expressing that his grandmother persistently belittled both me and my grandfather. A year later, he committed an irreversible act, a pivotal moment from which there was no return. On August 27, 1964, at just 15 years old, Kemper engaged in a heated argument with his grandmother, Maud Matilda Kemper, while sitting at the kitchen table. Overcome by rage, he stormed away and retrieved a hunting rifle his grandfather had given him. Returning to the kitchen, he fatally shot his grandmother in the head and then fired twice more into her back. Her last words were reportedly, "Oh, you'd better not be shooting the birds again." Some reports mention that she also suffered multiple post-mortem stab wounds with a kitchen knife. When Kemper's grandfather, Edmund Emil Kemper Sr., returned from grocery shopping, Kemper shot him fatally in the driveway next to his car. Uncertain about what to do next, Kemper contacted his mother, who advised him to call the local police. He followed her instructions, waiting for authorities to take him into custody. After his arrest, Kemper expressed that he just wanted to see what it felt like to kill Grandma and testified that he murdered his grandfather to spare him the anguish of discovering his wife's death, fearing his grandfather's anger towards Kemper for what he had done. Psychiatrist Donald Lunder, who later interviewed Kemper, noted, in his own way, he sought retribution for the rejection by both his father and mother. At just 15, Kemper's actions were seen as unfathomable. Court psychiatrists diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia, leading to his placement in Atascadero State Hospital, a maximum security institution in San Luis Obispo County catering to mentally ill inmates. Despite his actions, Ed Kemper's time in the hospital was relatively short. He was released on his 21st birthday in 1969. After his release, Kemper moved in with his mother, who was employed as an administrative assistant at the University of California in Santa Cruz. During his time with his mother, Kemper went to community college as part of his parole terms. He aspired to become a police officer but was turned down due to his imposing stature. He stood at 6 feet 9 inches tall upon his release from Atascadero, which earned him the nickname Big Ed. Kemper held various low-level jobs before securing a position with the State of California Division of Highways. In the same year he started at the Highway Division, Kemper was in a motorcycle accident, severely injuring his arm. He received a $15,000 settlement from a civil suit against the car driver who hit him. Using part of that money, he bought a 1969 Ford Galaxy. While driving around, he noticed many young women hitchhiking. Kemper began stocking his car with plastic bags, knives, blankets, and handcuffs. Initially, he picked up hitchhikers and let them go peacefully. Kemper claimed he had given rides to about 150 individuals in this manner before his homicidal urges, which he referred to as his little zapples, emerged, leading to his subsequent actions. During the span of May 1972 to April 1973, Kemper would go on to murder 8 individuals. He would offer rides to female students hitchhiking and transport them to remote locations where he proceeded to fatally shoot, stab, smother, or strangle them. Afterward, he brought their bodies to his residence, where he engaged in disturbing acts such as decapitation, using the severed heads to perform fellatio, having intercourse with their deceased bodies, and ultimately dismembering them. The first of these victims were Mary Ann Pess and Anita Mary Lucchesa. On May 7, 1972, while driving in Berkeley, Kemper picked up 2 18-year-old students, Mary Ann Pess and Anita Mary Lucchesa, hitchhiking from Fresno State University. He deceived them by promising to take them to Stanford University, but diverted the route towards a secluded wooded area near Alameda, known to him from his work at the Highway Department. Without alerting his passengers, Kemper changed directions. He handcuffed Pess and confined Lucchesa in the trunk before murdering Pess by stabbing and strangling her. He later killed Lucchesa in a similar manner. Kemper admitted to brushing against Pessy's breast while handcuffing her, feeling embarrassed and apologizing seconds before killing her. He specifically chose these women because they appeared to be from an affluent class, distinct from what he described as the unkempt hippie types. He placed the victims' bodies in the trunk of his car and drove back to his apartment, where a broken taillight attracted the attention of a police officer, yet the officer did not uncover the bodies. With his roommate absent, Kemper brought the bodies inside, engaging in disturbing acts with the corpses, including photographing them and engaging in intercourse before dismembering them. He disposed of the body parts in plastic bags near Loma Prieta Mountain and later left the severed heads in a ravine. Pesce's skull was discovered on Loma Prieta Mountain in August of the same year, but no trace of Lucchesa or the rest of Pesce's remains was found despite extensive searches. On the night of September 14, 1972, Kemper encountered Aiko Ku, a 15-year-old dance student hitchhiking to a dance class after missing her bus. He drove to an isolated area brandishing a gun at Ku, but then accidentally locked himself out of his car. Despite this, Ku allowed him back inside. Once back in the car, he choked her unconscious, assaulted her, and then killed her. Afterward, Kemper placed Ku's body in his car's trunk, then went to a nearby bar for drinks before returning home. Later, he admitted to opening the trunk and gazing at her body like a fisherman admiring his catch. At his apartment, he engaged in sexual acts with the corpse, followed by dismemberment and disposal, similar to his previous victim's fate. Despite Ku's mother reporting her disappearance and posting flyers seeking information, no details emerged about her whereabouts or well-being. On January 7, 1973, Kemper, residing back at his mother's house, encountered 18-year-old student Cynthia Ann Cindy Scholl near Cabrillo College. He drove her to a wooded area and fatally shot her with a .22 caliber pistol. Afterward, he transported her body to his mother's house, hiding it in a closet in his room overnight. The next morning, when his mother left for work, he engaged in disturbing acts with the corpse, removed the bullet, and proceeded to dismember and decapitate Scholl in his mother's bathtub. For days, Kemper kept Scholl's severed head, performing lewd acts with it, and eventually buried it in his mother's garden, intentionally positioned to face her bedroom, claiming it was because his mother always wanted people to look up to her. The rest of Scholl's remains were discarded by being thrown off a cliff, but most were found apart from her head and right hand, which were later discovered. A pathologist confirmed that Scholl had been dismembered using a power saw, and the remains were pieced together like a grim puzzle. On February 5, 1973, following a tense argument with his mother, Kemper left his residence, seeking potential victims. Concerns of a serial killer targeting hitchhikers in the Santa Cruz area prompted caution among students, who were advised to accept rides only from vehicles with university stickers. Unfortunately, Kemper managed to obtain a sticker since his mother worked at UCSC. He encountered 23-year-old Rosalind Heather Thorpe and 20-year-old Alice Helen Liu on the UCSC campus. According to Kemper, Thorpe entered his car first, urging Liu to join her. He fatally shot Thorpe and then Liu with his pistol, wrapping their bodies in blankets. Returning to his mother's house with the victims, Kemper beheaded them in his car and transported the headless bodies into the residence, engaging in lewd acts with them. Later, he dismembered the bodies, extracting the bullets to avoid identification, and disposed of their remains the next day. Some remains were discovered at Eden Canyon a week later, while additional remains were found near Route 1 in March. On April 20, 1973, his string of murders came to a definitive conclusion. Kemper was roused from sleep as his mother, Clarnell Strandberg, returned home from a party. As she settled in her bed to read, she noticed Kemper entering her room. She remarked, "I suppose you're going to want to stay up all night and talk now." Kemper replied, "No, good night." Waiting for her to doze off, he stealthily returned to her room and violently attacked her with a claw hammer before cutting her throat with a penknife. Subsequently, Kemper decapitated her and, as he described in an interview from 1984, humiliated her corpse. He confessed to placing her head on a shelf, screaming at it, throwing darts, and ultimately smashing it in. Additionally, he removed her tongue and larynx, disposing of them in the garbage disposal. However, the disposal couldn't break down the tough vocal cords, forcing the tissue to be expelled back into the sink. Reflecting on the event later, Kemper remarked, "That seemed fitting, considering how much she'd bitched and screamed and yelled at me over the years." In truth, Ed Kemper's mother had been his real target the entire time. "My victims represented not what my mother was, but what she liked, what she coveted, what was important to her, and I was destroying it," he said. Kemper concealed his mother's body in a closet and headed to a nearby bar for a drink. After returning, he invited his mother's close friend, 59-year-old Sarah Taylor Hallett, to his house for dinner and a movie. Upon Hallett's arrival, Kemper strangled her to fabricate a tale that his mother and Hallett had departed on a vacation together. He then stowed Hallett's body in a closet, concealed any indications of disturbance, and left a note for the police. The note stated, 5:15 a.m. Saturday. No need for her to suffer anymore at the hands of this horrible, murderous butcher. It was quick, asleep, the way I wanted it. Not sloppy and incomplete, gents, just a lack of time. I got things to do. Later, Kemper fled the area, driving continuously to Pueblo, Colorado, using caffeine pills to stay alert during the over 1,000-mile journey. In his car, he carried 3 guns and hundreds of rounds of ammunition, convinced he was the target of an active manhunt. Upon reaching Pueblo and hearing no news about the murders on the radio, he found a phone booth and contacted the police, confessing to the killings of his mother and Hallett. However, the authorities initially did not take his call seriously, instructing him to call back later. Hours later, he called again, asking to speak with a specific officer he knew personally. He confessed to this officer about the murders of his mother and Hallett, then surrendered himself to the police. Upon his arrest, Kemper also admitted to the murders of the 6 students. When questioned in an interview as to why he decapitated his victims, he explained, "The head trip fantasies were a bit like a trophy. You know, the head is where everything is at, the brain, eyes, mouth, that's the person. I remember being told as a kid, you cut off the head and the body dies. The body is nothing after the head is cut off." Well, that's not quite true. There's a lot left in the girl's body without the head. They went on to ask why he turned himself in. Kemper said, "The original purpose was gone. It wasn't serving any physical or real or emotional purpose. It was just a pure waste of time. Emotionally, I couldn't handle it much longer. Toward the end there, I started feeling the folly of the whole damn thing, and at the point of near exhaustion, near collapse, I just said to hell with it and called it all off." Kemper faced 8 first-degree murder charges on May 7, 1973, and was represented by Santa Cruz County's Chief Public Defender, Attorney Jim Jackson. With Kemper's detailed confession, his legal counsel opted for a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. While in custody, Kemper made 2 attempts on his own life. His trial commenced on October 23, 1973. Taking the stand on November 1st, Kemper testified that he killed the victims because he viewed them as possessions he wanted for himself. He aimed to convince the jury of his insanity, claiming his actions were the result of an aberrant mind. Kemper asserted that 2 entities inhabited his body, leading to blackout-like states when the killer personality took over. After 5 hours of deliberation on November 8, 1973, the jury found Kemper sane and guilty on all counts. He expressed a desire for the death penalty, asking for death by torture. However, due to a moratorium on capital punishment by the Supreme Court of California, Kemper received 7 years to life for each count, to be served concurrently, and was sentenced to the California Medical Facility in Vacaville. We appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoy these true stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest grim tales. Share your own close calls in the comments below, and remember, true tales can be truly twisted. Until next time, stay curious.